Back in the early 2000s, it was hard to find a series that was a bigger runaway success than Call of Duty. While extremely well established nowadays, 2007 to roughly 2012 was a meteoric time for the series. Going from a PC-only title in 2003 to being a multi-million copy-selling franchise in just a few years isn't an accomplishment to sneeze at. Between COD 4, World at War, and Modern Warfare 2, the series had made great leaps in just 3 years, and that trend was set to continue in 2010. While Infinity Ward were the main team running things at the time, sister studio Treyarch wasn't a slouch when it came to developing their own entries in the series. While Call of Duty 3 and World at War may have borrowed heavily from the titles that came before them, their next game aimed to be far more original. While World at War is fondly looked at today, one could knock it at the time and even now for the elements and innovations it borrowed from COD 4. It makes sense to a degree though. COD 4 changed not just what the series was as a whole, but how multiplayer games worked in general. So keeping those innovations in your next title were a must. Also, Treyarch was developing World at War at the exact same time they were developing 2 other games for Activision, with release dates mere weeks apart. So it's unlikely they had a full staff working on it. Which to a degree just makes the game all the more impressive. If the biggest complaint you can have about World at War is that it just doesn't do too much new a year after COD 4 revolutionized the FPS landscape, you've probably done a pretty good job. Once the teams at Treyarch got their 2008 games out the door though, the entire studio was now free to work on their next project as a unified group. Treyarch now had an important decision to make. While World at War had done well, the Modern Warfare games were the better sellers compared to Treyarch's last effort. So instead of getting caught too far in the past, but also not risking encroaching on Infinity Ward's territory, Treyarch opted to move the setting of their next game to the Cold War. This move proved to be extremely popular, as upon release in the fall of 2010, Black Ops became an instant bestseller and helped kick off the multi-year trend of Call of Duty games becoming the biggest entertainment launches of all time. I think this was possible in part thanks to Treyarch clearly wanting to make a name for themselves. Instead of simply copying what Infinity Ward had done the year prior, but with a Cold War skin, Treyarch made further innovations in multiplayer. Black Ops' gameplay and weapon balance was in many ways more refined than Modern Warfare 2's, allowing for more customization and a new way to unlock items with in-game currency rather than simply unlocking perks and weapons by leveling up. And that's not even mentioning classic kill streaks being introduced, such as the RCXD. Certain maps were also interactive, adding a new dynamic to combat. They also introduced features such as Theater Mode, which allows players to revisit their matches from multiple angles, which helped give rise to many an aspiring YouTube gamer back in the day. As with most players, multiplayer is the franchise's bread and butter, so it's no wonder that so many players became obsessed with Black Ops. This title also marked my first foray into the series, and I can remember how special the game seemed back in the day. To someone barely beginning to dip their toe into the PS3, Xbox 360 generation, there wasn't quite anything else like Black Ops on the market. And looking back, it's still an incredibly special game. But for all the innovations Treyarch made in multiplayer, I think the biggest and most important improvements came in the campaign. The story of Black Ops is a mind-bending, action-packed thrill ride with deeper characters than we had seen before, and insane set pieces that the devs could probably had only dreamed of including a few years prior. While I love the Modern Warfare games for mostly sticking to a grounded and gritty reality, I can't help but also appreciate Black Ops for turning the action up to 11, going full Michael Bay. Following the game's release in 2010, Treyarch quickly edged out Infinity Ward as the favorite COD developer, and the success seen by their run of games in the years that followed is legendary. Black Ops 2 changed the multiplayer game by redefining the killstreak system into score streaks, and the campaign mode relied on player choice to help shape the narrative. Treyarch is fondly remembered for their streak of games from 2008 to 2012, but the more recent history has been more rocky in my opinion. Like the other studios, Treyarch released their answer to the advanced movement craze in 2015, while the multiplayer and zombies are usually well regarded, the campaign mode was a catastrophe. From idiotic characters, a poorly told story, and a rushed script, the story of Black Ops 3 is a black mark on the franchise, one that Treyarch would never really recover from. The development of Black Ops 4 was so tumultuous that they got rid of the campaign mode last minute and replaced it with a Battle Royale mode, and the studio hasn't returned to the area of storytelling ever since. The legacy of Treyarch's campaigns thankfully doesn't end there though, as in 2020 a different studio would take the campaign mantle and return some respect to the Black Ops name. Now, with Black Ops 6 on the horizon, it's time to take a look at all of the Black Ops games and how their story-driven campaign modes, or lack thereof, have influenced both Treyarch as a studio and the world of Call of Duty in general. Along the way, we'll visit exotic locales, meet memorable characters, shoot up bad guys with friends, and yes, maybe even kill a zombie or two. So, for the next 5 weeks, join me as I take a look at Treyarch's legacy as we prepare for Black Ops 6. Expect new campaign retrospectives every Friday from now until Black Ops 6's launch day in October. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you there.